Alright, today's lesson is lesson 4 part 1. We're going to be talking about something called complex numbers. And you'll learn about complex numbers. And the complex numbers are necessary for solving quadratics, especially when you don't have any real roots. Okay? So we're working with the complex numbers today to help us when we don't have any real roots. Alright, how this ties in with our past skills, if we take a look at standard 1 and then standard 1, 3a. Okay, recognize that to solve certain problems and equations, number systems need to be extended from real numbers to complex numbers. Alright, I'd like to introduce you to what we call the imaginary unit I. The imaginary unit I is basically, or is, the square root of -1. Okay, so when we're working with this, if we want to find the square root of a negative number, we can throw I into the mix now, and these will be pure imaginary numbers. There's some examples here on how you do this, but I'm just going to take you through a couple of these. Okay, first off, we are going to simplify the square root of -28. Now, when you're dealing with the 28, the first thing we want to do is we want to take our -1 out of the -28. Then we're going to do the prime factorization for 28. 28 is 2 times 14, which is 2 times 7. Alright, remember on square roots, if there's 2 inside, you can kick them outside. So we're going to kick those 2's out. Kick out 2, bring out 1. Now we're going to kick out the -1 and call that I. And what's left inside is the 7. That's 2I root 7. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. The square root of -32. Once again, prime factor. The negative becomes a -1. 32 is 2 times 16, which is 2 times 8, which is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2. Okay, so what we can kick out here is, let's go ahead and kick out the numbers parts first. There's 2, 4. Alright, that's 4. There's I, and we're left with a 2 inside. Okay, so the square root of -32 is 4I root 2. Next, let's look at this one. This is the first one from your worksheet. Okay, the square root of -72. Take out the -1. 72 is 2 times 36, which is 2 times 18, which is 2 times 9, which is 3 times 3. Alright, let's kick out the number part first. There's 2, 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Let's kick out the -1, and that's going to be 6I root 2. Alright, let's take this a little step further now. Okay, when you're working with I, some things to understand. Remember, I is the square root of -1. So whenever you square a square root, you basically get rid of your radicals. So I squared is -1. It's the only number that you can square to get a negative number. If I squared is -1, then I to the third power is the same as saying I squared times I. That would be -1 times I, which is -I. I to the fourth is the same as saying I squared times I squared, which is -1 times -1, which is +1. So just remember this pattern. You can see it keeps going on and on and on. I is I squared is -1. A pencil going here. I, we just call that I. I squared is -1. I to the third is -I, and I to the fourth is 1. You can see it goes over again. Alright, we have I, -1, -I, 1. I, -1, -I, 1. So the power on the I basically will dictate what your answer is. So when we're simplifying these things, this is an example from the book with step-by-step directions. And here's my example for you. The first one, this is A. Okay, right there. We are going to simplify -3I times 2I. Separate out your numbers from your imaginary numbers. Okay, so I've got 3 times -2 and I squared. All right, treat I like a variable until you're ready to simplify it. Now, -3 times 2 is -6. I squared is -1. -6 times -1 is 6. There's your answer right there. Okay, let's move on to B now. Sorry. This, get out of the way. Oh, don't need to turn it like that. Okay, there we go. Let's look now at B. I've got the square root of negative 12 times the square root of negative 2. Step 1, do what we did with these problems earlier. All right, we're going to simplify the radicals. Okay, so what I've got here is the square root of negative 12 is not I yet. Pull it out of the radical. The square root of negative 12, okay, is negative 1, and 12 is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3. We're going to multiply that times the square root of negative 2, which is negative 1 times 2. So now when we're multiplying, and these are square roots, we can just combine everything. So what I've got right here is I've got, let's see here, let's go ahead and take these out before I combine everything. All right, that's I, so what I've got outside is I squared, okay, which is negative 1. All right, and then I've got the 2 here, 2 times 2 times 2, I've got 2 right there, and then I've got that 3. So what I'm going to kick out here is a pair of 2's, so that's 2I squared, and what's left inside is 2 times 3, which is 6. 2I squared root 6 is, I squared, remember, is negative 1, is negative 2 root 6. Okay, let's do a little bit of algebra now. Oh, hold it, we got to go back here. These are examples 4 and 5 from your paper. All right, let's take a look at the first one, number 4. All right, the square root of 23 is, or square root of negative 23 is negative 1, and 23 is a prime number. Now, the square root of negative 46 is negative 1, and 46 is 2 times 23. Okay, so now then, when I do this, this is I root 23 times I root 2 times 23. And let's see, when I put that together, I get I squared. There's a couple of 23's. And left inside is a 2. It's 23I squared root 2, which is negative 23 root 2. Okay, jumping on over to problem number 5. When I multiply all this out, I've got 3 times negative 2 times 5. Right? And I'm going to be multiplying that by 1, 2, 3, I to the 3rd power. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, times 5 is negative 30. That's negative 30, I to the 3rd power. Now recall that I to the 3rd power is, here we go, negative I. So what I'm looking at here is negative 30 times negative I equals 30I, because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right. Now we're going to solve these equations with pure imaginary solutions using what we call the square root property. What you want to do here, we want to get, instead of getting 0 on one side, we want to set, move this number over to the other side like they've done here, and then do the square root of both sides. An important part, though, when you're doing square roots, remember, you need to take into consideration both the positive and the negative square root. So on this one, I've got 5y squared plus 20 equals 0. Let's subtract 20 from both sides. 5y squared equals negative 20. Let's divide both sides by 5. 5y squared divided by 5 is y squared. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. Now we'll do the square root of both sides. All right, the square root of y squared is y, and positive and negative square root of negative 4. Now, square root of negative 4, let's take that apart just a little bit. Okay, here's my little thought bubble. Okay, I've got square root of negative 1 times 2 times 2. Kick out the 2's. Kick out the negative 1. Nothing left inside. So in this case, y is 2i. A complex or imaginary solution. Right, here's your example number 10. 7x squared plus 84 equals 0. Subtract 84 from both sides. 7x squared equals negative 84. Divide both sides by 7. X squared equals negative 12. All right, now do the square root of both sides. X is equal to plus minus the square root of negative 12. Let's break that negative 12 apart. All right? Square root of negative 12. That's negative 1 times 2. 12 is 2 times 6, which is 2 times 3. I can kick out a 2. I can kick out the negative 1. And what's left inside is the 3. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, the solution. Now tomorrow we're going to talk about complex numbers, which is the second half of the lesson. So we're going to be working with complex. Get back there to that one. All right, perform operations with complex numbers. Complex numbers contain imaginary numbers. We'll be back tomorrow for the next part of the lesson.